Welcome to Conflict News 24. A look at headlines. Firstly, US has stepped up its military presence close to Russian borders. A US military division which was last deployed to Europe in the Second World War is back in Europe, close to Russian borders. Secondly, we have a new story from Iran where protests are continuing, and today in Mahabad, angry protesters set government offices on fire. Security forces used live ammunition, and one protester was killed. And thirdly, was Uganda, where a man has been in power for around 36 years. Elections are held as well regularly in Uganda. But one man in power for the last 36 years, and now his son wants to be the next president. Firstly, viewers, Russia Ukraine war ongoing since the 24th of February this year. Russia is accusing NATO of fueling this conflict, of trying to encircle Russia. So while Russia-Ukraine war is ongoing, NATO has stepped up its military presence close to Russian borders. A US military division which was last deployed to Europe in the Second World War is back in Europe. 101st Airborne Division of US Army has arrived in Romania. Around 5,000 US soldiers are part of this 101st Airborne Division. This division has joined thousands of other American, Dutch, German, French, and other soldiers deployed in 8 countries close to Russia. Before the start of Russia-Ukraine war, NATO had presence in 4 European countries close to Russia. Latvia, Poland, Lithuania, and Estonia are the 4 countries where since 2017 NATO started stepping up deployment of its forces, of its military assets like warships, jets, air defense systems. But after the start of Russia-Ukraine war, NATO decided to form 4 more battle groups in Europe. And in the last 4 months, NATO has deployed more troops to 4 other European countries which are close to Russia. And the 4 European countries are Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia. So now NATO has its military presence in the form of troops, military assets, warships in 8 countries which are situated very close to Russia. This is called eastern flank of NATO. NATO's presence in 8 countries close to Russia is eastern flank of NATO. Around 100,000 NATO troops and dozens of air defense systems, jets, bombers, warships are deployed to these 8 countries. And the 2 sides are conducting military drills as well, nuclear military drills. NATO is conducting the drills, we know, and nuclear bombers, B-52 are part of these military maneuvers. Russia is doing the same, and yesterday we reported that Russian President Putin was seen witnessing nuclear retaliatory drills, of which nuclear bombers, intercontinental missiles are part of. Meanwhile, US has stepped up its experiments to improve its hypersonic missile. So Massive flexing of muscles is ongoing. Both sides are stepping up their military posture, military deployments, and NATO deployments in 8 countries close to Russia are not for training purposes. These are combat deployments. It means that NATO is in a ready state in case of Russian attack on a NATO country, and in case of Russian use of nuclear bomb on Ukraine. A small mistake or a desperate decision by Ukraine or Russia can lead to a serious escalation with Russia on one side and Europe, NATO on the other side. Secondly, viewers, Iran, where around 40 days ago protests erupted after the death of a 22-year-old girl, Mahsa Amini, in police custody, who was arrested for improper dressing. Since her death, we have seen massive demonstrations across Iran, including Tehran, Iranian capital. Iran is accusing neighboring countries and other countries like Israel and US of fueling conflict in the country, but women are spearheading this protest movement, who are protesting against laws which make it mandatory for Iranian women to use scarves to keep their entire bodies covered. Today, on a Thursday, in Mahabad, the city, protests erupted, and there angry protesters set on fire governor's office. Security forces fired live ammunition, and one protester was killed. A 35-year-old protester by the name of Ismail was killed in Mahabad today. So people are now going to the extent of burning, of setting on fire government offices. 40 days have passed. Despite crackdown launched by Iranian security forces, protests are still ongoing. Dozens of protesters have been killed in these protests, but so far no signs of any end to these demonstrations. Meanwhile, 2 days ago, in Shiraz, Iranian city, at a mosque, some attackers carried out an attack and more than 15 worshippers were killed. Shia Muslims were killed, and ISIS claimed responsibility for this attack, though Iranian media was pointing fingers towards Saudi Arabia. But ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, and today Iranian supreme leaders vowed to take revenge, that ISIS will be dealt with. ISIS has been conducting attacks on Iranian Muslims, Shia Muslims, not only in Iran but also in Afghanistan as well. We have seen that in other parts of the world as well. Wherever ISIS gets opportunity, it hits Iranian Muslims or Shia Muslims. Mainly Shia Muslims are based in Iran. So protests ongoing. Meanwhile, ISIS is trying to infiltrate as well, and it is trying to carry out attacks against Shia Muslims. Death of one protester confirmed in today's government crackdown on demonstrations. Watch the clip from Mahabad showing angry protesters protesting there against the government. What do these protesters want? Firstly, they want Iranian government to give freedom to the people, freedom of expression, freedom to speak, freedom for journalists, freedom for women as well, because women are facing very strict laws when it comes to dressing, when it comes to going out, and other issues as well. Though economic issues are also at the center of these protests because people are angry, unemployment rising, inflation rising, food prices rising, and while economic crisis is there, people are not allowed to express themselves freely. That is why anger on the streets of Iran. Watch this clip from Mahabad, Iran. Lastly, viewers, a new story from an African country, Uganda. If someone wants to see a mockery of democracy, perhaps Uganda is one of the best examples. Where elections are held every 5 years, but the same man has been in charge for around 36 years. And none of the elections held in the last 36 years was declared as free, fair, and transparent. Yoweri Museveni took power in Uganda in 1986. Since then, he has been in power. And now his son Muhoozi Kainerugaba wants to be the president of the country. Muhoozi Kainerugaba is an army officer, a lieutenant general who was promoted to the full general a few days ago, known for very irresponsible tweets, irresponsible statements about Uganda's foreign policy. Even Ugandan Foreign Ministry a few days ago issued statement that Muhoozi's tweets were his personal opinion. And a few days ago, Muhoozi talked about invasion of Kenya. Later, his father, Yoweri Museveni, apologized for Muhoozi's tweets, but Muhoozi was promoted to the rank of a general after that. And he's being groomed, Muhoozi, as the next president of the country. Muhoozi Kainerugaba, in a tweet just a few hours ago, said that the best way for him to repay his mother was by being president of the country. And he will definitely be a president of the country. Yes, he will definitely be the president of the country because opposition parties, opposition politicians are not allowed to operate freely in Uganda. Bobby Wine, a singer turned politician who contested presidential election of last year against Yoweri Museveni, faced hard time. He was not allowed to campaign freely. He was put under house arrest as well. And election held last year in January was not free, fair, and transparent. So Muhoozi is going to be the next president of Uganda when it's not clear. So far, Yoweri Museveni is in power and he does not want to relinquish power so far, but his successor is ready, Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Muhoozi Kainerugaba will also hold elections in Uganda every 5 years. You will see elections, but no change. So, mockery of democracy on its display in Uganda, where next president is going to be the son of the man in charge for around 36 years in Uganda, Yoweri Museveni. Thank you for watching.